evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another session of Certificate Course in Dialogue Studies 2023-2024. We have the pleasure of having with us Dr. Ananta Kumar Giri, who is a professor at the Madras Institute of Development Studies, Chennai. He has taught and done research in many universities in India and abroad. He has an abiding interest in social movements and cultural change, criticism, creativity, and contemporary dialectics of transformation, theories of self, culture, and society, and creative systems in education, philosophy, and literature. Dr. Giri has written and edited around 24 books in Odia and English, including Global Transformations, Postmodernity and Beyond, Knowledge and Human Liberation, Practical Spirituality and Human Development, Creative Experiments for Alternative Futures, Mahatma Gandhi and Sir Aurobindo, The Calling of Global Responsibility, New Initiatives in Justice, Dialogues, and Planetary Realizations, and Social Healing, which is his most recent book in 2023. He would be speaking on dialogue and global responsibility towards a new hermeneutics, ethics, and spirituality. We welcome you, Dr. Ananta Giri, and you have 2 hours to conduct the session, and you can take it however you want. There's usually a question answers. You can do it at the end of the session or somewhere in the middle. So the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pragya, and thank you, Bhagat, and all friends participating in this learning process. A warm welcome to us in this continual journey with dialogue. And interesting that it is a course, and course in the sense that many things in life, we take it for granted. But once we open it to a process of what I would call as love, labor, and learning, then it deepens us, and it also carries us to new height. Therefore, we can relate to the learning program that we have, part of this course, as a process of height and depth. We all realize that dialogue, even if we do not realize, some realize, some may not, but dialogue is a foundation of life. And that dialogue is related to responsibility. So in my discussion today, and what I propose is that I would initially speak for maybe 40 minutes, and then we would have a dialogue among each other, and then I would present some thoughts and we would move ahead. So dialogue and responsibility are related. That dialogue helps us, the practice of dialogue helps us in realizing our responsibility, for example, not only to, say, fellow brothers and sisters of humanity, but dialogue also helps us to realize our responsibility with fellow brothers and sisters of humanity. I invite us to understand the distinction between responsibility to and responsibility with. Dialogue, for example, is a process of with. The great philosopher R. Sundararajan, who taught at Pune, and then he was a fellow at Indian Institute of Advanced Study. He talks about a very interesting distinction between knowing about and knowing with. And he invites us to realize that knowledge is not just knowing about, but knowing with. And I also wrote an article some years ago, 10 years ago, called Knowing Together With. So this way of knowing together with is very much relevant to the very practice of dialogue, thinking about dialogue. Because dialogue is not just about, dialogue involves relationship, it involves interactions, it involves knowledge. But there is a distinction between knowledge about and knowledge with. For example, in interreligious dialogue, which is a very important field of dialogue, there is a difference between, say, knowledge about Islam and knowledge with Islam, isn't it? And what is happening that if we bring it to this whole idea of objectivity and subjectivity, most of the time our knowledge as knowledge about is mainly done in a textual way. We are standing outside and we are gathering knowledge about, say, another religion or another person, or even about a tree. Knowledge about is very different from knowledge with, because when we are knowing, say, I am trying to know Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, but also the indigenous religions of the world, shamanism, for example. It's a difference between just knowing about them and knowing together with. Similarly, dialogue is a process of knowing together with. But knowledge is only one part of our relationships. For example, in India, in Indic traditions, there are three important yogas that Bhagavad Gita talks about. And what are these three yogas? One is called Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. Then Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. And Bhakti Yoga, yoga of devotion. Now, all these, what is yoga? Yoga is a way of establishing connection. And human life is a journey of connection. And we are all part of this yoga of life. Sri Aurobindo says that all life is yoga. But all life is yoga is not just limited to Indians or those people who read Bhagavad Gita. All life, meaning all life. And not only the Hindus, Muslims, Christians, and now in Palestine and Israel, with all the war and destruction, but there is a yoga of life going on in the midst of death and destruction. As there is, one-sided violence and terror and destruction, unimaginable destruction, killing children in hospital, and unimaginable. But in the midst of that, there is also yoga of life from Israel. Some people are protesting it. From Palestine, people are renouncing violence, and they're trying to weave threads all over the world today. Some statesmen, ordinary people are mobilizing the whole yoga of life. What I want to invite us is that if dialogue involves knowledge, and dialogue need to involve knowledge, because most of the time the dialogue that is happening does not have a yoga of knowledge. And yoga of knowledge also can be understood in the modern parlance, what is called as epistemology. That rigor of epistemology, that knowing. And today with social media, there is very little distinction between knowledge, which is really, I would like to say knowledge that is true, and knowledge which is just falsehood. Because today there is a lot of falsehood, floating around. And unless, like about each other's religions also, So I cannot know about other religions just from this falsehood perpetrated by the what can be called as the lords of falsehood in the social media. Responsibility means that each one of us have a responsibility to know. And know means that we have a responsibility to know from true sources. And that knowledge, again, is not enough, because knowing something just epistemically is not enough unless it is practiced in my own life. And how can I practice it in my own life? How can we practice in our own life? We need action, and we also need devotion. For example, if we say, if I read, about Islam, and I read about the 5 pillars of Islam, and one of these is prayer. That prayer, just unless I pray, then I cannot understand the significance of prayer. Sri Aurobindo, in his Savitri, has a profound line about prayer. And he writes, prayer, a master act, a king's idea. And with that, miracle becomes a thing of everyday life. I'm just paraphrasing from the original statement, like prayer. I myself, when I would give you my work, my humble work that I was able to learn or experience in Indonesia, for example. And as Pragya very kindly referred to, thank you, Pragya. Where are you best, Pragya?
I'm in New Delhi.
In New Delhi.
Yes.
Same as Behzad Bhai, Are you staying close to nearby or in far off
About
place?
about 10, 12 kilometers away, not too far for Delhi.
Okay, lovely. And then, our other friends, participants who are there, So thank you. And now in this book, The Calling of Global Responsibility, New Initiatives in Justice and Dialogues and Planetary Realizations, I have a chapter on dialogue in which I describe initiatives in dialogues in Indonesia, for example, and some initiatives in India. Now, India and Indonesia are very interesting, journey, I would like to say, journey of nature and humanity with the world. Because India, numerically, majority of people are Hindus. I'm talking about numerical majority. It is in constitution, it is not a question of a constitutional marker that India is a Hindu majority state. No. Similarly, in Indonesia, the majority of people are Muslims. But both the countries are, in both the countries, no religion is a state religion. Let me put it that way, isn't it? No religion is a state religion. And let to moving negatively in that way, in a spirit of, that secularism here, the fundamental aspect of secularism is that no religion is a state religion. Okay, that does not mean that it is anti-religious. Indian secularism is not anti-religious, because in India we have Sarvadharma, Samanvaya, Sarvadharma, Sadbhava, love and respect for all religions is, even it is the constitutional morality of India, including that Indian secularism is not just state-led secularism. Indian secularism is built upon this millennia of coexistence of religions, and therefore the very fact that India is not a state religion, but secularism is not just a project of state, secularism is a project of society. But what has happened is that the kind of dialogue that needs to happen among religions in India, and for example, religious group, religious leaders, civil society actors, knowledge institutions, Now, if we reflect upon after independence, after Gandhi, that has got stuck. The kind of energy that Gandhi could build by bringing people of all religions through simple activities like karma yoga. What Gandhi did, that he would begin each of his meeting with a all religious prayer, Sarva Dharma Prarthana, for example. And that really created the social basis of. But after Gandhi, that became stopped. There has been no really work, either from religious leaders or political leaders, and but therefore today, unless we initiate these processes of dialogue and co-learning, now we just had Diwali. Now in Diwali, of course, you would have Pragya would have exchanged sweets with Bajat Bhai, and Bajat Bhai and would have also greeted you, and and when is Ramadan, in the evening there is iftar party. Now very good that we have a good food in iftar party, but where is the food of knowledge? That Ramadan, what is the meaning of Ramadan? That many people who are born in Hinduism would know, even whether they have PhD or non-PhD. Why is that? Because we do not have religious education in our school. Why do not have religious education? Because India coming out of partition, we became very anxiety ridden. That any talk about religion would be very difficult. Yes, it is difficult. But just putting it under the carpet, what has happened? That today we are learning about religion from the speakers of fundamentalism from each of the religions, and we have given the religious space to this kind of very narrow-minded fundamentalists. So therefore, speaking about dialogue as knowledge, dialogue not just as epistemic knowledge. In modernity, we talk about the primacy of the epistemological. Epistemology is important, but that primacy of the epistemological, unless it is accompanied by devotion, devotion which means Shraddha, Shraddha means love and respect. Seva, Seva means, like Hizmat. The meaning of Hizmat is Seva, service. In fact, I was reading a very profound essay on Subhash Chandra Bose, written by Ranajit Guha, the great historian of our times. I would invite all of you to read this essay. And this is this book called A Small Voice of History. So in which Ranajit Guha, the great historian, is reflecting upon Subhash Chandra Bose's autobiography. And in his autobiography, and we must remember that how Subhash Chandra Bose, when he was the mayor of Calcutta, in the 1930s, he was he devoted his life for bringing Hindus and Muslims together. And if Subhash Chandra Bose was in India, and maybe we would have had a different story, because Azad Hind Fauj, you remember, it had soldiers from all religions, Azad Hind, and Ranajit Guha reflects upon Subhash Chandra Bose's autobiography called A Pilgrim, the journey of a pilgrim, in which he says that how from Swami Vivekananda he learned the significance of seva, Hizmat. And what was the living principle of Swami Vivekananda? And Swami Vivekananda says, Atmana Udharam Jagat Hitaya. That means the upliftment of self and the benefit of humanity. And then Subhash Chandra Bose read this statement and he linked seva to Shraddha. And Shraddha means love and respect. So what I invite us to bring thinking about dialogue vis-a-vis Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga is that the very practice of dialogue is a practice of knowledge, okay? Like our certificate course, And then that practice of knowledge is at the same time accompanied by hizmat or seva, any kind of seva that we do. For example, peace work today, dialogue forum itself, we can remember, the dialogue forum, for example, in 2010, I visited a very important dialogue forum in France called Dialogue of Humanity. And this dialogue forum, Dialogue of Humanity, and I write about it in my book, which began from the city of Lyons in France, and that dialogue forum in partnership with civic organizations in Brazil and India. For example, in India, there is a forum called Fireflies. It's an ashram, intercultural ashram near Bangalore. I invite you to look at its website. And now this dialogue of humanity in collaboration with Fireflies, it has been organizing dialogue of humanity for the last at least 7 to 10 years. So in 2010, I took part in the dialogue of humanity in Lyons in France, which was happening in the Grand Park, the very big park in Lyons. And it was an open space. People from all religions, all countries would come. And it was also a learning space because there were many workshops, seminars. Okay, people would know about each other's cultures, religions, but also the whole pedagogy and methodology was very playful. For example, there was sessions about martial art, about songs and music. So think about if we had such initiatives in our communities, at least, in our cities, if we had such initiatives, and then if there is not, then let us think of maybe the participants of this course, they can think of initiating such dialogues in their own, schools or spaces, So my submission is that dialogue accompanied by action like dialogue of humanity, and that dialogue of humanity can be local dialogue, We can think about Delhi dialogues or Noida dialogues, and our own neighborhood dialogues of, humanity, our neighborhood dialogues of dialogue, and then devotion, love, and love and devotion is a theme, or faith. These are themes in all religions and also science also. Science talks about love of knowledge, isn't it? When we talk about Einstein and all scientists, one thing about scientists is that some they are called the mad people, And what is made? They are made for knowledge, isn't it? When I was visiting Kolkata during, I think, Durga Puja, some years ago, 10 years ago, I heard this beautiful baul songs. Again, bauls from Bengal, and bauls live in Bolpur in Santiniketan, and Tagore, who is also a great practitioner of dialogue, we can remember. He was inspired by the songs of the bauls. And the life world of the baul is such that they draw from Hinduism, from Islam, from Tantra in open ways. And one of the songs is Ora Ora Nakal Pagal Sakal Dese Asal Pagal Kothai. That means fake mad people are everywhere. But where is the true mad people? Because we are all made for something, isn't it? Today we are killing each other. We are creating so much of pain and suffering, not only to other people, but to ourselves, for our madness. But we are made for what? We are made to kill each other. We are made to hate each other. But if we turn around that madness for hatred to madness for love, if we, the kind of intensity, the ferocious intensity with which we are hating each other today, production of hatred, if that production of hatred is to some extent supplanted by that intensity of creation of love, creation of dialogue, then our world would be different. So with this kind of prelude, now I invite you to please put the PPT that I have sent you. So I invite us to join this with what can be called as poetics of global responsibility, with this poem, weaving heads and hearts of love. My green cape, a canopy of care, gone into air, lost forever. The head of my daughter is gone in the dance of battle. Our sons are gone in suicide bombing. Our fathers are gone in the name of expression, freedom of expression. Then the next one, freedom of expression, tearing each other apart. Can we weep together? Where is mutuality of expression, respect, responsibility, and compassion? How do we touch our humiliation? You draw cartoons, the head of my mother is gone in the wind. Here, this cartoon refers to the drawing of the cartoons about Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, and which was, published in a Danish newspaper, I think Newland Poston, in December 2004. And it created so much of pain, suffering, violence, and killing. And this cartoon again was reproduced by a journal, by a newspaper in Paris. And then it led to killing of some of these editors by the killers. Now the next one, the next slide. Monsieur President, O presidents, O editors, soldiers, and legislators, do you cry for us? Where is your tears? O jihadis killing in the name of Paigambar, the prophet of peace, whoever stitches canopies of respect and co-realization, heads and hearts of love in the deserts of hatred and retribution. And here reference to Prophet Muhammad, Paigambar, Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, stitching canopies of respect also refers to one life story from the Prophet's life, peace be unto him, where the Prophet used to stitch the blanket because in the Arabia where he was living, it gets very cold this time. But the Prophet would not buy a new blanket. He would stitch the worn out blanket. Therefore, his other name was Kambli Bala. And this is the story that was told to me by Askar Bhai, Askar Ali engineer. So the great son of our world, and we should read Askar Ali engineer's work. Maybe some participants here, they can read about Askar Ali engineer. And, one of my project is a project about, dialogue and transformation in Islam, bringing the work of Askar Bhai engineer and Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. In my book, I write about him, and also from Indonesia, Abdurrahman Wahid, who was the president, but also bringing some women Islamic scholars like, Amina Wadud, who wrote this book, Fighting the Gender Jihad in Islam. So bring all these thoughts together, think about dialogue as related to justice, in case of Amina Wadi, and I relate dialogue to justice. And that justice is also not isolated from peace, in the sense that here, Wahiduddin Khan from Delhi, who has established Center for Peace and Spirituality, he challenges us to realize that dialogue as peace, and we have to give primacy to peace. And sometimes we may get justice, and sometimes we may not get justice. And here he referred to the work of Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him. He said that the whole Madinah treaty was that, it was a treaty which was, he didn't get justice at that time, but peace came. But with the peace came, then there was a new opportunity for life, And similarly, we would have to, in dialogue, while struggling for justice, but justice, sometimes we can get it, sometimes it takes a long time to be realized. But if we give primacy for peace, then dialogue with a primacy for peace would lead to reconciliation. And with that reconciliation, also it would be much more streamed towards justice. But if we are just, and this is a very beautiful interpretation of Maulana Wahiuddin Khan, based upon the spirit of Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him. So when we are talking about dialogue, we need to open ourselves to what I would like to call this ethics and spirituality of dialogue, and hermeneutics in terms of interpretation, and I'm coming to that. Next slide, please. Now, responsibility and dialogues. That dialogue and responsibility are related. But unfortunately, today in our world, we are mainly talking about rights and justice, isn't it? Now, in our discourse, there is very little attention to responsibility. For example, our very discussion about the world is today about global justice or lack of it. And when we are talking about global justice, we are mainly talking about global economic injustice, And that global economic injustice is also today very much visible in climate injustice, Because climate is a very important arena of responsibility. There is a difference between climate as an arena of justice and climate as an arena of responsibility. Now, with the climate change, which is verging on climate collapse, the people who are going to go underwater, they are not from the countries of North America or Eastern Europe. It is the brothers and sisters of Bangladesh or Maldives and some of us in India, isn't it? Because in Delhi, you would get a long time to go underwater. But in Bombay and Chennai, we are waiting for water to come sooner than later, So then we would have to go to, Noida or Ghaziabad, The point is that, but those today, just blaming, North America and Western Europe would not save us from going underwater. At the same time, all of us have to take initiatives. Now, Dr. Swaminathan, M.S. Swaminathan, who is again a great embodiment of dialogue, and he brought dialogue to work on climate. And there is a very beautiful dialogue between Daisaku Ikeda and who builds on a very important religious and spiritual movement in Japan called Soka Gakkai. And he had a dialogue with M.S. Swaminathan, about revolution and how green revolution, evergreen revolution, and revolution of peace. The same Daisaku Ikeda also has a dialogue with Abdaruddin Wahid from Indonesia. Very interesting dialogue. And I invite you all to kindly look at these works, And the dialogue, for example, that Ikeda started right from 1976. And the first dialogue was called Choose Life. And what it was a dialogue with the great historian Arnold Joseph Toynbee. Think about from 1976 to our just 2026, just 3 years away, for the 50 years of dialogue initiated by the single man, Daisaku Ikeda, but the knowledge that he has generated, that knowledge is a gift to humanity, and all of us are invited to take part in that knowledge. So therefore, M.S. Swaminathan, he said that as the climate is changing, now the people who are living under, near the coast, whether it is river or the sea, we can build mangroves, isn't it? And once we build mangroves, then we would have some protection from seawater, isn't it? We are not totally helpless. I have a poem about while we are building mangroves, we also need to build mangroves for our mind, because today our mind is also getting, tsunami of falsehood, and our mind is becoming too polluted, isn't it? Not only water is polluted, our mind is polluted. So dialogue and responsibility go together, and responsibility means not just justice, as dialogue means justice means not just justice without thinking about peace. Similarly, responsibility includes rights, justice, and responsibility, and it involves multi-topial hermeneutics. Hermeneutics means that it is interpretation. And that interpretation begins with, like, for example, reading a text. How do we, in fact, hermeneutics begin with interpretation of Bible. And then all scholars of religions, we all interpret our own religious texts, isn't it? I can say that Bhagavad Gita, now there are so many interpretations of Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? And there are innumerable interpretations of Bhagavad Gita. And modern India, and in fact, Tagore, not Tagore, Gandhi has written on Gita, Tilak has written on Gita, and Sri Aurobindo has written on Gita. In fact, Indian freedom struggle, the differential emphasis draws upon different interpretations of Gita. But when Gandhi was reading Gita, for example, he was reading Gita not only just as a Hindu. Gandhi, by that time, when he's writing on Gita, he's already familiar with Christianity, isn't he? And he's already in dialogue with Tolstoy. And you know how Gandhi developed his love for Tolstoy? It is from a letter, and we can say from a dialogue, from a counterposer that Tolstoy wrote. Tolstoy wrote a letter to one called Taraknath Das. He was a freedom fighter. He was based in Japan at that time. And he was trying to mobilize world opinion for Indian freedom struggle. And he wrote to Tolstoy that, dear Tolstoy, you are the most known, writer of literature now all over the world. And people look at you as a voice of conscience. Why don't you write about supporting Indian freedom struggle? And in that freedom struggle, in that letter that Tolstoy wrote in reply to Taraknath Das, called Letter to a Hindu, and Tolstoy is asking, dear Taraknath Das, you are fighting for India's freedom. Yes, my heart is with you. But do you realize that if colonialism has oppressed Indians, what about caste system? Tolstoy is asking that question. Have you ever thought about fighting against caste system? And while asking this question, Tolstoy is raising paragraphs and paragraphs from Bhagavad Gita. And then somehow this letter gets to the hand of Gandhi. And Gandhi publishes that letter in the newspaper that he was publishing from South Africa. Then Gandhi asked hermeneutic questions to Tolstoy. First of all, Gandhi, as a lover of truth he's saying that he was putting these paragraphs from Bhagavad Gita, but can you give the sources, what are the sources, and then at the same time, when Gandhi is deeply challenged by this letter. And therefore, the point is that when we talk about hermeneutics, like interpreting Bhagavad Gita, now when Gandhi is interpreting Gita, for example, Gandhi is interpreting that this very profound line in Bhagavad Gita, that Sodharma nidhana shreya paradharma bhayapa. That means it is better to die in one's dharma rather than, the another's dharma is dangerous than being killed in one's dharma. But what is the meaning of dharma here? For example, there is this, Sri Krishna is referring to Arjuna's duty as a Kshatriya, as a warrior, for example. Yes. But what is this? What does it mean to be a warrior? In all religions, there is a great, struggle with what does it mean to be a warrior. Whether it is Dharma Juddha from Bhagavad Gita or Jihad from Islam. Now, in discourse about being a warrior, jihadi, there is a very profound discussion between the greater jihad. And what is that greater jihad? That greater jihad is the struggle with our own lower nature, our temptation to deviate from the path of God, isn't it? And similarly, Bhagavad Gita talks about three gunas: sattva, rajaha, tama. Tama, the darkness, because true dharma is to free ourselves from the darkness. Therefore, the dharma of the warrior is not just to kill. Yes, there is a conditional responsibility. That is conditional. It is not permanent war. It is not that, and there is a, even if we have to kill, we would have to kill recognizing the limits of killing, isn't it? And therefore, the point is that Gandhi's interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, and that Gita is not just proposing, war, but also peace. And that also had an impact on India's freedom struggle, not only India's freedom struggle, but the whole movement of non-violence that began with Gandhi, or that kind of got a new manifestation in Gandhi, and that was a worldwide movement, isn't it? In North America, in USA, Martin Luther King, with learning from Gandhi, he gave a new manifestation to the spirit of Jesus Christ, isn't it? In Palestine also, people are following non-violent struggle in the midst of all these difficulties, in Burma, Aung So just see, what happens to a new hermeneutics of a text. I want to bring us to this practice of multitopial hermeneutics, meaning that when we are reading our own text, if we read text of our religion by moving across other religions, and also the realized souls of other religions, like Tolstoy. Now, Tolstoy is not just an ordinary Christian. Tolstoy is a realized soul in the spirit of what this another great writer. I would invite you to read his work. And his name is Turkam Sarayadarian. And he has a book called Teaching of Great Ones. He's again Turkam Sarayadarian. He's a great thinker and a great realizer. He's a great sadhaka. I would invite you to read his work. He has written almost 200 books. In my last visit to USA, I visited their center near Phoenix, Arizona, and Turkam Sarayadarian have written about all the great sadhakas and sadhikas from religions and knowledge. So my submission is that when we read the texts of our own traditions, our religion, as well as other knowledge, by moving across other religions, cultures, and knowledge traditions, then it helps us to realize our own traditions as well as other traditions. And at the same time, when we come to history and society, like interreligious dialogues, we can look at what is happening or not happening in India and Indonesia. As I said, that in India, we should have much more interreligious dialogue. It is not happening. And unless we do that, then we would have more challenges, because it is we who are going to suffer. And we cannot throw people out. We cannot just say that you can go to another country. And my respected teacher from Delhi School of Economics, JPS Uberoi, who has also written a very important work on Sikhism, called Religion, Civil Society and State, and in which and in many other work, he is giving a profound challenge. He says that even if we expel all the non-Hindus from the heart of the Aryabharta, still the problem of the self and other would be there, isn't it? So then we would have to learn how to live together. And the whole challenge of science and spirituality is that if we do not learn how to live together, then nobody can save us from the fact of dying together. And this is what is happening, isn't it? So we are dying together today. Some people, the number may be less from some group because some people have now state power, they have nuclear bomb, they are not talking about it. Only one or two people are saying that let us drop nuclear bomb. But we are all dying together, whether it is one person, as it is written in the Holy Quran, if one person is killed, the whole of humanity is killed. If you save one life, all these doctors who are trying to save even the life of one single baby, he is saving the whole life of humanity. So moving on the next slide, please. Please come to the then interreligious dialogue. Here I present to you the work of another great scholar, Professor Frank Clooney, and he is a very inspiring writer and realized Hindu Christian spirituality. He's writing, thinking about Krishna as a Christian, that before the Christmas, and we are just today is November 15th, we are just one month away from Christmas, isn't it? And before Christmas, during Christmas, Christians celebrate this period called Advent, the birth of Lord Jesus Christ. And Professor Clooney is writing, he has a very important book called Reading Interreligiously. I would invite you to read this work, which came out in 2018. And in fact, during this time, I was visiting him at Harvard, and that was the Thanksgiving period in USA. And he's writing, thinking about Krishna and Advent marks a way of practicing what we preach. Interreligious learning is not merely a matter of ideas or confessions of faith aimed at one another, but it is a true intercultural exchange. By attentive study, we find our way into the literature of another religious tradition. We learn from it and we consider in respectful detail what is said and how it is said. While this kind of study does not lead to answer to life's enduring questions, it changes us little by little, and we find ourselves to be Christians who have genuinely learned from another religious tradition. While it may not be possible for a Christian simply to believe in Krishna, for instance, there is no reason why a Christian, pondering the meaning of Christ's coming this Advent season, cannot learn greatly from how Hindus have interpreted the coming of Krishna into the world. Just that, as Lord Jesus Christ is coming to the world, and we feel that before Christmas, and what Professor Clooney is inviting, just open yourselves how Hindus are waiting for, Krishna to come. There is a very beautiful song which you might have heard, Krishna ni begani varo. It means, Krishna, come quickly. And in my humble way, I have added a few lines, Radha ni begani varo. Means, Radha, please come quickly. And then we can add, Christ, please come quickly, isn't it? And we can also add with respect, Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, and so come quickly, realize quickly, Here I present a picture from my participation in Parliament of World Religions in 2015, and we can all appreciate that how Parliament of World Religion has been a very important initiative in dialogue, beginning with 1893 in Chicago, where Swami Vivekananda took part, and he addressed the people there, my brothers and sisters, and Swami Vivekananda himself had, like his master Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna, and he had a personal realization of Lord Jesus Christ. And I was present, my first participation in the parliament in 2015, which happened in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I was presenting, and it is here a picture from the langar, because in the parliament, right from its revival from 1993, which again got revived in Chicago, our Sikh brothers and sisters have been presenting langar, means food, during lunch. And I met this sister. And then the next one, please. The next slide. And this is from, in the parliament there was a dance, and you see the people holding the globe in their hand. It is very symbolic. And the next one, please. And this is here, my meeting, in Indonesia with a person. And I was visiting a person in Java, and accompanied by friends called Persik in Indonesia. After this, we would have discussion, and in the next round, I would tell more about some of these experiments in dialogue and where I am meeting. And as you can note, this modality of embrace, and the Parliament of World Religion in 2015, the Parliament began with a day of offering ourselves to the Divine Mother, the mother in all religious traditions. Because we can appreciate that most of our religious traditions, there only the male people can be priest, isn't it? Isn't it? But at the same time, there is a profound realization of limitations of what can be called as masculine domination in religion. And all religions today are striving to make the space of religion a more dignified space for women, as well as intergender relations. That is a very important part of interreligious dialogue of humanity, is that how do we free ourselves from the masculine domination of religion and politics to making them spiritually nurtured by the Divine Mother in each of the religious traditions. And therefore, in Christianity, there is much more openness to the Divine Mother, not only Father. And that stream is also flowing slowly in Islam and other religious traditions. And the Parliament of Religion, beginning with that, is a very important testament of our common human journey today. And then in 2018 in Toronto, in Canada, where I also took part, it was happening in November only during this time, the Parliament began with the spiritual tradition of the indigenous religions of humanity. Because Toronto, say 300 years ago, it was the indigenous people who are living there. Their spirituality was the spirituality of the land. And but unfortunately, that was destroyed. But slowly, Canada is trying to regenerate the indigenous spirituality. 3 countries of the world, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, when you visit these 3 countries, they would always begin, or most of them would begin, at least in New Zealand and Canada, they would begin, New Zealand and Australia, we begin this meeting by paying our respect to the ancestral spirit of the land, isn't it? In India, we do not do that. In USA, people do not do that. None of the countries that I have visited, maybe except Latin America. In Brazil, there is much more acknowledgement of the indigenous tradition, you know. So then the parliament in Toronto began with the celebration of indigenous spirituality. Today, one of the profound dialogue that should happen is dialogue with nature, isn't it? And I want to suggest that when we are talking about dialogue, we are still very anthropocentric in our assumptions, you know, that we are mainly talking about social dialogues. But have we thought of having dialogue with animals, you know, with plants? Because dialogue with mountains. And here, all our spiritual, I would use the Indian word, spiritual sadhakas and sadhikas. Whether it is Lord Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, Buddha, and all of them, if you remember their life story, they spent a great deal of time with nature. Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, he was going to the mountains from Mecca. Whenever he would come back from his caravan, he would go to the mountain. And it is this, and when he was going to the mountain, he was not just going to the mountain, he was being with the mountain. And it is this modality of being with the mountain that prepared these seeds, planted these seeds for the liberation. And then, one of these days, Archangel Gabriel came. My respected friend and teacher from Odisha, Chittaranjan Das, and this is his birth centenary. And I would invite you also to look at his work, Chittaranjan Das. He came to the Himalayas in the 1960s, and he has written a profound book called Silatirtha, means the tirtha of the mountain, and in which he says that when you coming to your temple, or you think that you are having a pilgrimage, you are coming to Kasi or Mecca or Medina or Jerusalem. But when you come to the mountain, it is also a pilgrimage. And then if you have the ear, the mountain is also speaking to you. So my submission therefore is, today, as we are planting some seeds of dialogue, let us not be blinded by dialogue as confined to human beings and society. Our interhuman dialogue and our societal dialogue needs to happen, with dialogue with our plants and animals. Chipka movement in the Himalayas, you remember that Chipka and this idea of the embrace that you see, think of how the world would be different if each of us, while beginning our morning, we begin our day by hugging each other, Today, even husband and wife, they do not hug each other, because even they would send a SMS to each other, And, so think of the parents and even the families, the day would begin by hugging each other. And then we would begin the day when we come out in the morning. If we plant a tree, if we do not have a tree, we plant a tree and we begin by hugging a tree. And then if we have a pet animal, then we begin the day by hugging the animals. So then these are my initial thoughts. And now let us have our, conversations among each other, please. And then I would bring some kind of threads of thought after our conversation, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ananta Giri. Thank you for this lovely session. I really think that the participants have enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed, especially your little anecdotes and the little bit of how you connected the culture with the concepts. I think that was very informative for all of us. We'd like to we can go ahead and take questions, or if anybody has a comment, that also is most welcome. Poonam, Munir, and Sonal, please switch on your cameras so that we can have a more interactive session. Thank you. Asna, you're first on my screen. Would you like to say something, or if you have a question, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Am I audible, ma'am? Thank you so much for the wonderful section. I would just like to know, in between you were mentioning about your experiments with dialogue. So could you please elaborate upon your experience and experiments with dialogue?
Okay, thank you. What I can request is that I can gather a few questions and comments. I would come towards the end. Where are you from, Asna?
Sir, I'm from Kerala.
So, Sugamana, എന്തു വിശേഷം? വീട് അവിടെ?
നല്ല വിശേഷം. വീട് തിരുവനന്തപുരത്താണ്, ട്രിവാൻഡ്രം.
തിരുവനന്തപുരം. കുട്ടിലെ എന്നാ ജല്ലി?
What, sir?
What is jolly means work? What is your work and study? What are you studying?
I'm studying at Jamia.
Jamia. Acha. What subject?
BA Social Science.
Acha, acha. Are you staying in Delhi?
Yes, sir.
Acha. You love the Jamia campus?
Yes, I love my campus.
Very good. In 1992, so I was a guest lecturer in the sociology department. So I would come, it was very cold in January, and I would experience the beauty, and I miss those days of Jamia. Thank you. I'll come to your question later. Other friends.
Yes.
So I have a question. Yeah.
Hello,
Sonal.
Sonal.
Hello, sir.
How are you? Namaskar.
I'm all fine. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Yeah. So that was really a wonderful session, Dr. Ananta. And my question is, like, when you said that we should have a dialogue with nature as well, and with animals, with plants, with mountains, to be with them. But nowadays, what is happening? People are just running behind so material things. They are becoming so materialistic. So how to bring all of them together, like people from all faiths, and to spiritually grow together? Because this thing I have experienced, like everyone has their own understanding of spirituality, and they don't want to go beyond that or try something new beyond that. They think that like we are doing something different. So what is the easiest way to do that?
Thank you, Sonal. Where are you based, Sonal?
I'm based in Nagpur.
Achha. So, kasi ahat?
Me ekdam majat. Ekdam majat.
So you live in Nagpur, city of Nagpur?
Yes, I live in the city of Nagpur.
How nice. What do you do, Sonal?
Basically, I'm an IT professional, but I'm also associated with an interfaith organization named as India Peace Center here in Nagpur. So, and I'm also like inclined towards spirituality since 2014-15. So, I'm and also associated with many social organizations. So, yes, so my work is on that ground.
How nice. I am very eager to know more about India Peace Center. Later on,
Sure.
we can share our emails and coordinates,
Definitely, 100%.
I have my humble experience with Nagpur.
Oh, that's nice.
And one of my experiences, and that is also related to Hasna's question, in 2016, one early morning, he came from Sevagram to Diksha Bhumi.
Okay.
Sevagram is Gandhi's place.
Yeah. Today only we had our trip. Actually, basically, I'm in between a program named Face to Face, where theology students from 9 different countries are here in Nagpur to learn about Indian culture, the tradition, interfaith practices, and visiting places. So today only we took them to Sevagram to visit the Vapukuti, and yeah.
And so I spent a night in Sevagram with Baba. And then early morning, I came to the village and to the Harijan neighborhood of the village, and Gandhi was working with that. And then I came to Diksha Bhumi. Diksha Bhumi is the place where Dr. Ambedkar embraced Buddhism. And then, and then when I came out at 11 o'clock after the worship, I found many brothers and sisters, and they were teaching. They were wearing white and they were teaching. Many of these volunteers were teaching students. So, and then there are many activists. I met one who is a government official, and he has created a habitation space in his own home, where many of these Dalit students, they are coming, they're preparing for civil service. So that journey from Sevagram to Diksha Bhumi, because in terms of dialogue today in India, our current political discourse is too much in always creating an opposition, for example, between Gandhi and Ambedkar. Now, one challenge is that, that Gandhi and Ambedkar had questions for themselves. They argued, but there was no love lost between them, especially on the part of Gandhi. Gandhi deep love for Ambedkar.
Yes.
And now today, that one important dialogue is to bring that the love that Gandhi had for Ambedkar. It was not a paternalistic love,
Okay.
And but it was though when Gandhi met Ambedkar for the first time. Where did Gandhi met Ambedkar for the first time? It was in the Round Table Conference in London. And Gandhi had not met him, therefore we cannot blame Gandhi that he was a bit surprised. We are all human beings, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then slowly from that it grew out of respect, and then Ambedkar challenged Gandhi, and then Gandhi accepted that challenge. But with this small little interjection, please tell me your question, please, Sonal. About this materialistic,
Yeah. People are being so materialistic nowadays. So how to bring them together spiritually?
Yes.
And because,
that is a very beautiful question. So I will come to it. Some other thoughts, please. Very nice to meet with you, Sonal.
Same here.
And after that, we can hear this what is called as avang. We can hear a avang from you at the end.
Zikra has a question. Zikra has raised a hand. Please, Zikra, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Am I audible? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for the very nice lecture. I don't have any question, but I would like to comment. So you mentioned about Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahab, who is from New Delhi, and Asghar Ali engineer, and you talked about peace and justice. I would like to say that I don't agree with Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahab, as I worked on him. I did PhD from Jamia Millia Islamia. So one of personalities from was Wahiduddin Khan Sahab. So I don't agree with him on the theme of peace and justice, as he says, first first maintain peace, then justice will come automatically. I don't think so. So I think so. First, we have to maintain justice. We have to be on justice. Then peace will automatically will come. And another comment was about interreligious dialogue. So, sir, I would like to say interreligious dialogue is very important, but I would like to say that intra-religious dialogue is very important. First, we have to first we have to start intra-religious dialogue, because there is so many misconceptions even in our religion. Even youngsters don't know about our religion and lot of things, and there is a lot of misconception about various things. So I think so with interreligious dialogue, intra-religious dialogue is very important. And the other thing is, I would like to say that we have to start on a ground level, whether it is interreligious, whether it is intra-religious. We have to start with on a ground level. There is a lot of conferences and a lot of intellectuals are joining conferences. They are discussing dialogue and all, but I think so we have to start from the ground. To maintain peace in the society, we have to start from the ground. So these are the comments I would like to discuss, and I like the theme about greater jihad. You discussed about the greater jihad, so it was nice. We have to remove the misconception about jihad, because when we hear the word jihad, we only think that is we are violent and we are fighting, we are suppressing. No, I would like to say jihad is in itself, it's a broad meaning. Jihad means it's like struggle. So I would like to say that everyone in the world is at jihad. Me at jihad, you at jihad, everyone in this session, even we are at jihad. We are we are struggling, we are leaving a lot of responsibility and join you and listen you very carefully. So we are at jihad. So that's it. That's it, sir. Thank you so much.
Salam alaikum dikra.
Walaikum assalam, sir.
Kifalak, alhamdulillah. Kifalak.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Very well.
Kaifa?
Where are you from?
I'm from UP, Aligarh.
Achha, Aligarh. Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
And, what was your PhD on, please?
Sorry, sir.
What was the topic of your PhD research?
PhD. So it was a Muslim intellectuals' response to terrorism.
From which department?
So it was Islamic Studies Department, Jamia Millia Islamia.
Oh, lovely. I think Professor Farida Khanan is also there, no?
Yes. She's the daughter of Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahab.
She is also teaching there, no?
Yeah, she's retired now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there, I think Professor Bhasi was teaching there.
Yeah. He's also he's the vice chancellor of Jaipur University, Jodhpur University. Sorry.
I have met Professor Bhasi.
Yeah, he's a very good.
Very important question. I will come to it. Thank you for asking, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank
I would like to read your thesis. We can be in touch, And
yeah, sure.
I would also invite you. We have an online forum. I will invite you to present your work,
Sure, sir.
Now we would hear other friends who are, other friends, please. Your questions.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Hi, Poonam.
First of all, thank you for such an insightful session. I really liked and enjoyed this session throughout, and especially the part where you gave example from social thinkers, religious, and spiritual thinkers. and I want to I don't know whether it is question. I want to understand more when you, as you mentioned during your session, that in all the religion there is dominance of masculinity, and and now there is more space for femininity or women. So when it comes to access of space, as far as I like, based on my limited knowledge, I understand that when it comes to accessing the space, of course there is more inclusivity now, when it comes to women and like other other section of the society. uh, but when in traditional and religious context, women has been always like symbol, like source of wisdom, like inner intuition, and like seen as the emotional and as a symbol of kindness and love. So like now with the technology and there is much dominance of individual achievement, which is like materialistic success and achievement in terms of money and other thing. And there is kind of this association with the self, and as you mentioned in your session as well, like this association with the nature, and also like this association with the community space. Like, you know, can you like elaborate that in that direction? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Poonam. Where are you based now?
Sir, I am from UP, Jaunpur. But right now I live in Delhi. I'm a PhD scholar from Jawaharlal Nehru University. I'm doing PhD, and my area of research is gender and women. Like,
In
sorry, gender and work. Yeah.
in which department?
Center for Economic Studies and Planning.
Oh, very good, economic studies. And you
Yeah.
are very philosophically oriented. That is a good thing. Economics and philosophy have to dance together.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. That's what my struggle altogether is, because like as a person, I can like relate more with the like ground level thing, with the emotional, and like, you know, and all the studies in economics is based on model data statistics. I like do those things, but I like to connect those statistics with the ground level stories, like real stories. Otherwise, there is like, yeah, proving things with the model and equation, I don't find that much interesting.
Yes, yes, that is so important. And of course, there is the whole important stream of feminist economics and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there, for example, very important works are happening. And
Yeah, yes.
I am now editing a book called Contemporary Contributions to Critics of Political Economy.
Wow.
And it is coming out soon, maybe in the next 2 months. It is from Routledge. And I am not an economist by training, but I have my humble interest. Somehow it has come out. And I am developing an idea of critique of political economy. It's not just confined to economy and state, but moral economy, moral sociology, and spiritual ecology. And in on this, how women play a very important role, you know. And after this Nobel Prize that I think Gloria, you know, from MIT, she got the prize. And so I'll come to it. Thank you, Poonam. So this is the JNU library. You are out now.
Yes, sir. This is a small garden behind the economics library called
Economics.
Exim Bank Library.
Okay, lovely. Your economics is in the same social science building, no? Sociology building, same place, no? Then, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, Munir, please.
Yeah. So Kenna can go before Munir, and then Munir.
Good evening, sir. It was a very nice lecture, because when I came across the topic, I thought it was something very complicated, but you simplified it to a very large extent. And sir, I don't have a question, but then just a simple observation. So, like you talked about how all religions have been masculine, but can we not say, sir, that every religion has been interpreted in something that favors men than women? So that is what is my take. No religion, I think, so inherently favors men. It is just how throughout the years men have interpreted it in their own for their own purpose. So that is it. And thank you so much, sir. It was really nice listening to you.
So, Salam Alaikum, Sheda, Kipalak, Saida. Am I telling you,
Welcome.
please, Saida?
Sayyida, sir.
Saida.
Yes, sir.
And where are you from?
Sir, I am from Calcutta.
কেমন আছুন?
আমি ভালো আছি, স্যার। আপনি কেমন আছেন?
ভালো আছে। বাড়ি কোথায়? কলকাতা থেকে?
কলকাতাতেই, স্যার।
আচ্ছা, সল্ট লেক সিটি or
Yes, sir. Actually, Salt Lake City, Sector 3.
Oh, lovely. You stay in a beautiful part of Kolkata. And what is your area of study and work, please?
Sir, I have completed my master's in international politics, and now I want to pursue my PhD. So preparing for.
From which university or master's, please?
Sir, I have done my master's from Aligarh Muslim University.
AMU.
Yes, sir.
Very nice. Nice meeting you. I'll come to your question. Thank you. Khuda Hafiz.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for the session, sir. It was very informative and absolutely an insightful one. And yeah, you are a polymath and you speak so many languages. It's a great thing to know. You respond to every participant in their own native languages. So speaks of your capability and brilliance. And yeah, my name is Munir. I just submitted my thesis a couple of months back from Jamia Millia Islamia in the Center for Comparative Religions and Civilizations. So my topic is on hermeneutics of religious otherness in Emmanuel Levinas. And since I have talked about interreligious dialogue and responsibility when it comes to Emmanuel Levinas in my thesis also, so there may be some questions and suggestions. I wanted to ask you first of all that Emmanuel Levinas talks about responsibility for the other as, serving God and responsibility to the other. When we serve the other, we are actually serving the God, and being responsible to the other means actually doing worship of God. He also speaks of the thing that after you, sir, like we always present a person that you go first. So it's a prioritization of the other, and we never are never able to comprehend or understand the other and its otherness, alterity, or anything. When it comes to the religions as such, interreligious dialogue or intra-religious dialogue, there can be different things to it. There may be people who are in dialogue, but some people may be prejudiced or may be wanting a particular result out of it. But when we talk about peace and justice and interreligious dialogue, are we humble enough to, actually go into interreligious dialogue with the thing that, yes, there is truth in other religions as well? And does that compromise our belief system or not? First thing. Second, perhaps Zikra mentioned about Wahiduddin Khan and his take on peace and justice. Well, I think I agree with you more on it, because, if we promote justice first, it will mean that hanging somebody else for a murder. And when we hang somebody else, their family is not at peace. So they won't ever be at peace of that, even if they are wrong. So we need to promote peace first so that these crimes are not happening. And so we don't need to establish justice, but it comes as a flourishing thing. Also, don't you think, sir, that religion and the ultimate meaning and the claims of almost every religion to have the monopoly of truth or to be the ultimate truth there is, isn't it a root cause of all the problems, and therefore isn't it the thing that for which we need interreligious dialogue? Aren't we starting from a premise that is itself a problem, that I am the ultimate truth, my religion is truthful one, my prophets are absolutely great, and others have a problem, they are polytheists, they are this, they are that, women is like this, is carved out of a rib, or women are, a man can be polygamous whereas women cannot be, and if she is named as many many different things. uh, However, we may, be apologetic about a thing that no, our religion does respect women and all, but there are traces of it, whether it be because of patriarchy, whether it be because of the interpreters of religion being men or whatever. But yes, women have been at the, receiving end of it. So if that is a premise, are we able to understand that why God had made very less amount of prophets in terms of women? Why are our main stakeholders men in terms of Hadith literature, in terms of hermeneutics, in terms of any other things? Also, sir, I would like to see your response on the hermeneutics thing. If religion is a, you know, is religion like Islam is 1500 or 1400 years old, or Sikhism is 500 years old. So there is this not so much of a, oral tradition going on in Islam like it is in Hinduism, like it is in Buddhism. So there is not so much of a, if a person can say like, no, the scriptures are corrupted, like Islam believes Christian scripture to be corrupted or Judaic scripture to be corrupted. If we start from this premise and this hermeneutics works in Islam, suppose, how are we going to ever make peace with them? Isn't Israel and Palestine conflict having a religious inclination to it based on the promised land thing? However mythical we may take it, but it is a thing and people do respond to it. That's why Palestinians are taking up what they call jihad, and that's not the greater jihad of self, but to have a political entity. You have terrorism seen in Kashmir or Iran making Khilafah a thing, when Khilafah, as many interpreters of Quran say, no, it's not a thing. Democracy is a thing in Islam. So we are not able to get on a consensus of a thing over religion in itself. So how do you get into consensus with other religions and reach a common ground in that? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Khudafis Munir, where are you from?
Sir, I'm from Kashmir.
So, which place in Kashmir?
Sir, it's Bandipora district, 50 kilometers from Srinagar.
Bandipora. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
So then you know my friend Maruf Bhai. Do you know Maruf Saha?
Oh, he's my cousin. He's my paternal cousin, Maruf Shah. Yeah.
Then I have visited your home in.
You must have, sir. So
I came with Maruf Bhai last year.
Okay, great.
And then came to Bandipora, and he has a cousin brother who is studying in Central University of Kashmir. He's studying political science,
Yeah, Amir. He's my cousin too. Yeah, Amir.
And I stayed in his home. Your home is nearby?
Yes, absolutely, very near.
Lovely.
Thank you so much.
So my knowledge of Kashmir has to improve. So I cannot beat you in Kashmir.
That's okay.
So thank you, Munir Bhai, for these very big questions. And your thesis is so important, the hermeneutics of religious otherness,
Yes, sir.
Levinas, and are you studying another thinker or only Levinas?
Well, sir, basically it's on Levinas, but I have took on other thinkers meanwhile, like I took on Sayyid Hussein Nasr, Abraham Heschel, Derrida, and many others also. So I have been taking them out.
I think Syed Hussein Nasr, very important juxtaposition that you are doing.
Yes, sir.
I have just now I can begin the process of thinking together, what I would like to call. It is not just a reply, but it's a process of thinking and being together. I'm grateful to all of you for these very important thoughts that you have brought. But in the same journey, so let us also listen to Bayajat Bhai and Pragya, your thoughts on these issues, please, before I.
Well, I'm just intrigued. I've loved all the questions that everybody has asked. I think I think especially the one where where I think Saida asked about interpretation of religions being made to benefit masculine men. I think that is something I've sort of believed in as well. So yeah, that's just a comment. And because we have less time, so I would really like to keep my words short.
And what is your area of work and study, please, Pragya?
So I just completed my postgraduate in Gandhi and Peace Studies, and my background is in business management, and I shifted my role, and I work as a citizen. I work for Indo-Pak peace and interfaith peace, and in the citizen to citizen part. Yeah. I'm just keeping my words short because there's less time. So.
But just quickly, where did you study your peace and Gandhi studies? From which university?
From IGNU, Indira Gandhi National Open University. Yeah.
So thank you. Now, beginning with the first question from Asna about more examples and experiences. Like I was, I should say that I have been blessed to spend time with brothers and sisters from different ways, and religion is one way, but also different kind of spaces, and so that has been a great experience. Like when I was in Indonesia, that I was giving a talk in Gajah Mada University, and then we danced in the class. And then one woman student, she was wearing hijab, and then during the process of interaction, I had her number, and then in the evening, I was taking a walk. I was staying in the guest house. The university is a very fine, beautiful guest house. And then on receiving my call, she came. And she took her bike and came, maybe took her 15, 20 minutes, and we walked together on campus. Her name is Sita. And as in Indonesia and Java, there are many Muslims who have names like Rama, Sita, Maruta. The husband of Sita is Maruta, And then when I was like her, so my experience, my meeting time with these people, and when I would travel in Indonesia, whenever there is prayer time, evening time, wherever they are, people are driving, they would come out, they would come to a mosque, So I could experience the beauty of prayer. What does it mean to live a life of prayer? And then many years ago, I think in 2012, I was in France. And then I met a woman from France, and I have written a poem about it. It is in my book called Weaving New Hats. And I met her, and she told me that when she was visiting Turkey, she fell in love with a man from Turkey. And then she got married, and she would go, and then they have a child, and then she would go. And then when prayer time comes, okay, her boy would insist to come to the mosque and with her grandmother. And she would say, this French woman would say, "Mother, please take him. Even if he's a child, he would not make any noise. Just see what is the meaning of a prayer." So only when we experience life, it is one thing to talk about 5 pillars of Islam, but the flow of prayer in our life, what does it mean? It is only through experiences like this. And then that way, once I experience the beauty of prayer, my own life born into a Hindu person or a Hindu family, And then I can also experience the beauty of prayer in Hinduism, you know. So, and I remember a great Christian theologian, Francis Dija, who taught in Pune. I met him in a seminar here. And this institute I have visited many times, Jnanadeepa Vidyapith in Pune. And he told me that after he read Bhagavad Gita, then his way of understanding Bible, especially New Testament, got enriched by reading of Bhagavad Gita. So that is therefore, it is very important that we experience, as it is written in the Holy Quran, that the God, Allah is saying that we have created so many nations, so many languages, that you can experience the beauty of difference, you know. And that way, that it is very important that we realize the beauty of creation by experiencing the beauty. And then coming to Sonal, yes, for example, this materialism, you know, that we are all in the grip of, but also what is our experience with materialism? You know, that let us see our own experience, you know, materialism, that, you know, whether it is matter or money or, you know, pleasure, we realize that with all our materialism, then we are still not very happy. So therefore, you know, our immersion in materialism is also being accompanied by a lot of discontent. Sometimes we speak about this discontent, many times it is at a repressed stage. So therefore, if we just tell about our, you know, look at today what is happening, you know, we are all, you know, giving all our time to materialism, money, matter, but then there is also limit of it we are feeling. So if we begin with the limits of our own experience with materialism, then slowly we would find a related other ways. And today there is also a crisis of materialism. This whole financial crisis of relationship today. You see that because there is not a deeper dimension, no matter how many cars and mobile phones we give to each other, our relationships are breaking down, isn't it? The brokenness of the world vis-a-vis our primacy of materialism is also a reality in which we are living. So if we reflect on that reality, and then slowly and slowly, we can a kind of unreflective materialism to realizing matter and its limits and possibilities. And then Jika, yes, very important. And also thinking together with Munir, and certainly question of let us you know, justice. Yes, justice is very important. But what is the what we can call as the journey of justice? Okay. Now, justice is not just one point, isn't it? And I would like to call justice is also a sadhana. It is a tapasya. It is a striving, isn't it? It is not that, you know, justice is just one thing. There is an ecology of justice. And therefore, the great philosopher Paul Ricoeur, I invite you to read his book called, the name of the book is called Just. You see in terms of language, you see the implication of the different, you know, the kind of vibration it is creating, justice and just. The very word just implies us that whether each one of us is just, isn't it? And then Paul Ricoeur has a very profound invitation to realize the link between love and justice. Okay? So justice is certainly, but justice is not isolated from the path of love. And another great thinker, Fred Dallmeyer, I'm just talking about theories of justice. I think that a deeper understanding of theory of justice can inspire different kind of practice. Fred Dallmeyer is also talking about relationship between love and justice. So therefore, once we, even our struggle for justice, law, peace, and justice, if, even with our primacy of justice, if we are attentive to, in an ecological way, at the same time be attentive to peace and love, then even our struggle for justice would be depend rather than harm, isn't it? So what, even if we do not have to think in either or way, I plead that, granting, acknowledging the significance of your primacy of justice, that it, instead of just primacy of peace or primacy of justice, let us think of it in terms of responsibility to be attentive to all of the three, even if when we give primacy to justice. And then I very much like your that we are all in jihad. And I can tell you a story in half a second, that in 2006, when I was, in a flight from Düsseldorf in Germany to Oslo, my neighbor is a friend, and he and his daughter, and I asked, what is the name of your daughter? She said, the name of my daughter is Jihad. And and therefore the greater jihad, the greater dharmayudhya that we would have to be part of. And I would like to submit that the greater jihad is also the jihad for peace, isn't it? And I am editing a book, co-editing a book, which is coming out, called Towards a New Dharma of Peace Building. Because we have a tradition of dharma yudhya or jihad, but we do not have a similar kind of tradition of what I would like to call as dharma santi or dharma peace. Let us talk of a peace jihad, and let us initiate a conversation about it. Then your thought, Poonam, very deep indeed. And yeah, both Poonam and Saida, you are challenging us in your own ways. For example, Saida, that it is the men have interpreted. And it is in that sense that, Munir, it is not that all the prophets have been men, but it just happens that we have been able to acknowledge the prophets who are men. But maybe there are many prophets who are women whom we have not acknowledged, isn't it? And at least, in contemporary world, we are acknowledging some. In India, we have many women spiritual leaders, and Mata Amritanandamai Devi from Kerala is so inspiring, and she is a great invitation to all of us. And in fact, I was present in October 7 in Amma's ashram in Kerala, and when this the Hamas terror attack took place, and I could feel the great pain and suffering that Amma was going through. And on that day itself, a Jewish scientist from California, she was teaching at Stanford, she was presenting a presentation about her work. Look at Amma, a spiritual leader. She has created a space where people would present their own work and she would listen, whether science, religion, spirituality. And that reminds me also my visit to a Gurudwara in Ludhiana, And since time is coming up, I will just take 2 to 3 minutes. Is it okay, Pragya? So I was visiting a Gurudwara called Gurudwara Gyan Prakash in Ludhiana, and where this Gurudwara itself was organizing a philosophical seminar, international philosophical seminar on the concept of the mind. Speaking about then the women's question is that, the women's question, I would not like to pose as the question that the women's blessing is a perennial condition of humanity. Okay? And humanity has killed herself by not acknowledging this blessing. But the fundamental revolution that is taking place now, that revolution is a revolution for the realization of that blessing. And if we do not prepare ourselves, then as I told, if we do not live together, we are going to die together. Today, all the religious fundamentalists, their first job is to kill women, isn't it? They are doing that. And all these masculine people, their only job is to kill women, isn't it? Look at how much violence is happening, and that to Dalit women, and it is a barbarity. But within all this, what is happening is a fundamental revolution that is taking place. Nobody can stop. And that is the revolution of the Divine Mother. And that Divine Mother is that the mother who has given birth to all of us. Would we be here if there was not a mother who has given birth to us? Similarly, the creative mother who has given birth to us, it is this mother who is engaged in this evolutionary struggle, jihad, for that. And Sri Aurobindo has written a profound book called The Mother. I invite all of you to read that. And that is the kind of, and as I was listening to you, Poonam, you talked about excess. That excess of women is not just an excess of women. That excess of women cannot happen unless there is a critique, interrogation, destruction of excess. E-X-C-S-S, excess. And that excess of patriarchy. And Ranajit Guha, the great historian, has a phrase called excess of history. Because unless we destroy the excess of history, that patriarchal history, by the creativity of the moment, it is in this moment that we would have to create a new history, isn't it? We would have to create a new reality where we are guided by the wisdom of the mother. And it is not just the male versus the female. You are very right to say the intuition of the women. That intuition today has to be universalized. Men also have to be more intuitive, isn't it? Science has to be more intuitive. In fact, I am editing another book in which I am talking about subjectivity and objectivity, in which we need to create more cultures of intuition, And then very quickly coming to, and Saida, yes, you are right, that women, the interpreters have been men. And then once women also start interpreting, as many women are also coming, like Amida Wahadud, her book, Fighting the Gender Justice in Islam. And in Christianity, many women theologians have come up, And one of them is a very profound theologian from Harvard. I have referred to her work. She has a very important paper called Wisdom's Dance. And then Munir Bhai, yes. So like this hermeneutics and Levinas is so important, and and that Levinas talks about the ethics of the face. And then therefore face that, that if we just look at each other's face. And I remember my meeting with Balraj Puri. I think Balraj Puri, Munir Bhai. He was the great, activist and peacemaker from Kashmir. And and he was telling me, I met him in 1996. He told me that whenever there would be riots in Kashmir, and he would just be in the middle of it. People are coming to blows, and he's being respected by both sides, and he's coming to the middle. It makes a difference. So then this whole proclivity to fundamentalization, and that is a great challenge. But in all religions also, like in Islam, why there is no face of God in Islam? Does Allah have a gender? Tell me. Does Allah have a name? So therefore, in Vedas, Brahma does not have a gender, and Brahma does not have a name. See, the point is, and similarly in Judaism, the name in Judaism, it unnameable. My submission is, again, in my book, I talk about a theologian in Indonesia who is talking about how Abraham or Ibrahim and Ibrahim, he has not built a religion. He was face to face with God, isn't it? So therefore, all religious traditions also, they come from this profound acknowledgement of unnameability, that there is a truth, but this truth we cannot totally know. So let us build upon this unknowing, this unknowability of truth towards truth. And therefore, truth not just as capital, though all religions, especially interpreters, have a proclivity to fundamentalization of this is a reality, and we are suffering from that. We are killing and we are getting killed. I do not know how long we are going to be in this process, but within that also, there are traditions of what can be called as relationality. I am not talking about absolutism versus relativism. I am talking about relationality. The way out of conflict between fundamentalism and relativism, absolutism and relativism, is not relativism but relational. So as relativism is also relational, relativism points to the relativity of truth vis-a-vis our conditions of life, but that inspires us to be relational. Relativism has not transformed itself to relationality. Similarly, the truth people, truth is also relational. There is an absolute truth which none of us know, but we are making a striving towards knowing. And that striving is happening in the waves of relations. So time and eternity there. So we would have to realize that each moment that we are living, that moment is related to truth, but the absolute truth none of us know. But the truth that is within you and me, we can know, isn't it? The truth that is there in Kashmir, I can know to some extent. Nandrusi and Lal, Lal Day, and who walked naked, and the dialogue between them. So contemporary Kashmir, India does not know Kashmir. And India by India, I mean that people outside Kashmir, they do not know Kashmir. And I would just invite you a profound book by M.J. Akbar on Kashmir. And what he is writing, that because we do not really know, we do not really realize Kashmir, therefore we are in such difficulty in that sense, And he's saying, and I would bring a mystical component here. He's telling about one historical experience, which is a mystical revelation. And he's saying that we also do not realize the significance of Sheikh Abdullah. And he's saying, that when Sheikh, in fact, many of you are studying in AMU, and Sheikh Abdullah studied in AMU. He came to Aligarh Muslim University from Kashmir. And then he got back. And when he came back, what did he do? He organized the peasants and farmers against the king, and the Raja put him in, and he didn't get a job in the kingdom of Raja Hari Singh. Therefore, he created a movement, and he gave the name Muslim Conference. And when he was in the jail, and M.J. Akbar writes about it, and you see the relationship between mysticism and the history, the blessing of God and history. In the jail, he had this realization. He said that I am in Kashmir, which has people from all religions. And by that time, he was in touch with Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and Gandhi also. And he realized, if I name it only as Muslim Conference, how can I present myself to all the brothers and sisters of Kashmir? And in that jail itself, you can think of it as another revelation moment. And because revelation is not just coming, revelation is a perennial journey. And if we are open, it comes at many times. So the revelation that Sheikh Abdullah had, that inspired him to change the name from Muslim Conference to. So maybe I am grateful to each one of you for your generosity. I would submit here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking out extra time to answer all the questions. As well as I think the students have absolutely enjoyed your session, because each and every one of them has asked important questions. They have been involved in the entire session. So thank you so much, Dr. Giri. It was wonderful having you on our In Dialogue Foundation's platform. And I'm sure a lot of students would be in touch with you later on as well. Thank you.